Going on to you, Taurus. So you have the Ace of Cups, the Five of Swords, the Knight of Wands, the Moon, the Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune, the Ten of Wands, the Five of Wands, the Sun, and last but not least, we have the King of Pentacles. So what I'm seeing here for you, Taurus, is so the Ace of Cups, the Five of Swords, this is very much so of a person that you, Taurus, pretty much rejected somebody else. Instead of someone trying to reject you, you actually rejected them. You actually beat them to the punch, right? You were thinking faster than they were. And the reason why it is that you dumped them is because you saw where it is that it was going to go. You knew that this interaction with them was not really going to last very long. So you may have potentially went out on one date with these people, and then you, Taurus, got a chance to actually see how they were. And then you, Taurus, basically told them, nah, you don't really feel like ever hanging out with them ever again. Or this could be a situation where you just hang out with them and you don't ever give them a call back. The Knight of Wands represents, because like I said, the Knight of Wands and the Moon, y'all already know the Moon is about ghosting somebody, right? The Ace of Cups and the Five of Swords, one date, one time you hung out with them, right? For, I should say, for a couple of hours maybe. You just wanted to see how things were going to go. But you, Taurus, already got to know what it is that you needed to know. You know that you can't trust them, you know? And the Knight of Wands and the Moon represents the two of you are not necessarily on the same page. It's either you can't trust them because they're really grimy and they're shisty. You know, they're very caught up in dysfunction, and they're letting you in on it, thinking that, you know, you're not going to peep game from them. Or it's a situation where the two of you were getting to know each other, and for the most part, things are going fine, but you and them don't necessarily have the same goal in mind, right? Because the two of you are supposed to grow together. And it's okay. You basically ghosted them, okay? Now, the Hermit represents how it is that these people will, you know, even though these people may have still be calling you, a lot of you, Taurus, may not necessarily really be picking up the phone, like I said, because you ghosted them. You don't really want to talk to them too much, not because you may not necessarily like them. For some of you, you don't like them, right? Because the two of you, they're too caught up with them being stuck up on themselves. For the others of you, it's more so a situation where you and them don't really see eye to eye. So the Hermit is about, regardless of whatever the reason, you're moving forward. And the Wheel of Fortune and the Ten of Wands, again, more indication of you moving forward. So the Wheel of Fortune and the Ten of Wands is about how since you, Taurus, have made up your minds that you're moving forward, you're never going to go back and talk to this person again, trying to get to know them. The Wheel of Fortune represents, you need to remember as to why it is that you went out on them in the first place. Like if the two of you, you know, what it's basically saying is for you to not be so picky. So just remember, as long as it's for a very important cause, then you're good. If you decide that you don't want to talk to them anymore, you know, due to the fact that, you know, they did something very small and you can, all intents and purposes, look over that, then what the cards are basically saying that you need to remember why it is that you're dating in the first place. You want to make sure that you're in a particular situation where you understand why you're dating and the two of you actually are on the same page. Otherwise, trusting each other is not going to work. Therefore, building a relationship is not going to work. So the Ten of Wands, right? Oh, and I'm also getting an indication that for the Wheel of Fortune, for some of you, you didn't like the person because, like I said, they were dysfunctional. So a lot of you, Taurus, saw this as something that was going to be a problem later on in the relationship, because eventually, even though they're letting you in on the silly little games that they may be playing with people, right, as you're sitting in their car or something like this, they're stupid enough to actually tell you all of this stuff. And a lot of you Taurus are wise enough to listen to what it is that they have to say, and you're soaking up game, and you understand, like, yeah, this date is going to be real smooth. You may finish it out, but you're not really going to talk to them after. And depending on how disrespectful they are, if they continue to be a jerk, you may end up walking out on them mid-date. And the Ten of Wands. So the Ten of Wands represents, you know, you're beginning to understand just how many jerks there is out here, and how powerful being in a relationship can be if it's the correct one. Because like I said before, in today's world, you know, a lot of people don't put too much of an importance on relationships because so many people are in the game. Like I said before, so many people are caught up being in the game because of insecurities and wanting to get certain things, and, you know, people wanting to get things done their way, that they don't really ever leave room for personal choice, right? So a lot of you Taurus understand that since that's the case, you are going to use your own common sense to the best of your abilities to find a person that is suitable for you, right? Where the two of you are on the same page. But just make sure, though, Taurus, that the two of you are actually growing together. I don't really suggest you being in relationships with someone and it's just comfortable and that's it. Then obviously that relationship is destined to go down with the shit, because a relationship, yes, you should have a certain level of comfortability with yourself and your significant other. However, the two of you are also supposed to be growing. And this is what leads me to the Five of Wands, right? The Five of Wands represents, and this is where it is that a lot of people may not necessarily want to grow. You know, when it comes to growth, personal growth, people don't want to hear about being challenged. You know, being challenged is really reserved for people who have a particular mindset, who understands the importance of a challenge, because they're looking for real substantial growth, you know, real long-term power and growth, right? And the thing about that is, most people are not really looking for that, even though that's what it is that they say that they want. They're lying, you know. And if they're not lying, then they just don't say that this is what it is that they want. They may just want comfortability all the time. And over comfort is the progenitor or the parent of weakness, because you can get so comfortable with the person to the point where you can mistreat them and disrespect them. You don't want to do that. This is what it is that you end up getting a lot of disagreements from. And then the Sun now and the King of Pentacles now represents. So just remember, Taurus, that, you know, you're definitely on the right track, because number one, you're able to see when somebody's running game on you and when someone is dysfunctional. And now a lot of you Taurus have the foresight, the long distance understanding, right? Not necessarily of space, but time, to understand that on a long enough timeline, right? If you keep hanging out with these people are not really going to take the time to really respect you and respect the relationship and i.e. the trust that the two of you have. They're just going to be very disrespectful, and they're going to be a jerk about it, right? You know, you want to make sure that somebody is very much so in control of their emotions and very self-determined and focused on who they are and where they're going, right? So let's clarify. Let's clarify some of these cards. Let's clarify it. Let's clarify the Wheel of Fortune. So to clarify the Wheel of Fortune, we have the Page of Cups, the Queen of Wands, the Empress, the Moon, and you already have the Moon. So again, the Page of Cups, people's delusion of why it is that you left, you shouldn't even be worried about that, because people are going to come up with some sort of stupid story as to why it is that you couldn't stand to hang out with them because they were too strong. You Taurus need to understand, for you not to really listen to that type of nonsense, because people have their own perception, right? Even if it's false. The Queen of Wands, the Empress, and the Moon now represents, you shouldn't even be worried about their projections, because you saw them, and you knew where the interaction was going to go. So you shouldn't even be so caught up with these people in the first place to even allow yourselves to even care what it is that they've got going on.